When I was 5 years old, my dad decided to join the army. He went away for 3 months to complete his basic training. When he came back, I did not recognize him. He went from 240 pounds and a full beard to 174 pounds and no facial hair at all. I was so scared when he came to give me a hug. I did not know who this man was. On the ride home, I sat next to him, wondering if he was really my dad. Then he told me he had a present for me. He reached into his bag and pulled out a dark brown teddy bear dressed in a military uniform. I hesitated at first, but eventually grabbed it. I then gave my dad a hug, telling him thank you. And when my nose hit his clothes, I recognized his scent. I knew this man was really my dad. A couple of weeks after my dad came home, we moved to Washington State. We arrived to Fort Lewis, the military base in which my dad was stationed at. Not having a home, we stayed in a hotel. My parents finally found an apartment in this little town called Lacey. We became used to our new home. But the one thing my mom and I could not get used to was the large amount of time my dad spent working. He would be held because one soldier from the whole group would lose a small piece of equipment, or because somebody did not finish a task. Even on my dad's days off, he would be called in because his sergeant lost a paper from a file. It was stupid. Unfortunately, this kept him away from me and my mom. Half the time, my mom had to be both mom and dad, also always attending my school meetings, helping me with my homework, and pushing me to be the best kid I could be. She was always there for me, and we became very close. I still remember having to walk 10 blocks to Safeway and trying to buy as many bags as we could carry. Those bags were so heavy, and when you are 6, carrying a couple of bags feels like 200 pounds. People would feel bad for us and offer us rides, but being alone, my mom could not trust anyone. Eventually, things became a bit better, but it was a difficult time. A couple years passed, and my dad's contract was almost over. The recruiter tried to make him stay in the military, but my dad no longer wanted to be away from us. He also knew it was hard for me and my mom to be alone. Then the recruiter told my dad about the National Guard, and how it was only part-time, which would allow him to have more time with us. My dad was convinced and decided to join the California National Guard, allowing my family and me to move back home. After a couple of months, we moved upstate to Corning, and we started our lives here with 2 new additions to the family. For the first couple of years, my dad left now and then for trainings, but it was not as bad as Washington. Then came 2008, and my dad was being shipped out to Afghanistan. My mom and I were devastated. He left to Missouri in September for training, coming back and forth till the holidays were over. I still remember that morning when my dad finally left. I walked up to my mom and began crying. All my mom said is that we have to be strong. Time went on and my mom fell into a depression. She was constantly tired and in bed, but still tried her best to do what she could. Again, she had to be mom and dad, except I knew she could not do it alone. Well, not with 3 kids. This is when I stepped in, trying to help her as much as possible. I did twice as much as before, helping with the kids, chores, and making whatever food I could. I was also keeping up in school and trying to be involved in extracurricular activities. It was a hard year, but like our time in Washington, we managed. Then came the day that my dad was coming home. It was around lunchtime, and we were waiting for his plane to land. After a while, we began to wait and see him coming down the escalator. Right when I saw him, I ran to him and gave him a big hug, letting all the pain go with new feelings of relief and happiness. My dad was home. My mom and I were no longer alone. It was truly the best feeling in the world. When a parent is away, it takes a strong spouse to keep everything in order. She or he must care for the children, go to work, pay the bills, and still try to care and comfort themselves. It also takes children who are willing to step up, which usually are the older ones. They need to try and help their parent with all the stress of being both mom and dad. It forces everyone to become more independent and work harder because life keeps moving forward, and no one really cares if your parent is gone. They will not stop and worry about you or help you because they have their own life to worry about. It is almost like if your parent has died for a year, and as a family you have to pull through alone. You can't sit there and cry because you'll be wasting time. All you can do is keep moving forward, hoping for the best. It is a very hard experience, and that is why only the families that are strong will survive. My dad was supposed to ship out again in June, but just recently his mission was canceled. All I can say is that I'm grateful that my dad is going to stay home, because with me leaving to college soon, I don't know if my mom has the strength to do it alone. That is why, as a military family, we must stay together, support each other, and have strength. This, I believe.